Well, welcome. This is Peers on Demand, and this is Rocky Romero, and it's my pleasure and excitement to introduce to you Ray Burchett, and he's co-founder of Accelerated Intelligence. And welcome, Ray. It's so good to be able to connect with you.
Rocky, thank you for having me.
And so let's get into it. Ray, I wonder if you might share a little bit about yourself and a lot more about your business. What would that be?
All right. Well, I developed my analytical skills working in public accounting for Arthur Andersen, and then transferred those to the trading floor. Spent over 20 years in the S&P 500 pit on the floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and that allowed me to deconstruct the behaviors that are responsible for high intuitive function and create intuitive development training. And what that does is it teaches professionals how to accelerate their improvement so they can remain relevant by staying ahead of the rate of change. And at Accelerated Intelligence, my partners and I help leaders really appreciate just how fast that rate of change is increasing and how it's impacting their client, customer, their teams, and their organization. You know, when we're doing well, we're staying ahead of the needs of others, and when we're struggling, we're chasing them. And we're doing a lot more chasing than we realize, and it's because we can't improve fast enough. So we develop perspective with our clients for how to accelerate improvements so they can remain relevant. And that yields the agility, the responsiveness, the leadership that results in much more timely knowledge transfer and information flow, greater awareness, greater sensitivity for the needs of others. And so now we're better anticipating those needs and much more likely to be staying ahead of things. And so how we differentiate ourselves in the market is that we've discovered a learning gap that's been unintentionally created by higher education, professional development, and organizational training, overweighting functional instruction. And again, this is unintentional. But doing that has been at the expense of developing what we call foundational behaviors that really cause us, empower us to filter, process, and apply information most effectively. So everybody has this gap, unfortunately. But the good news is when we fill it, and it can be done in a relatively short period of time, we gain significant advantage. We get better at everything that we do. And that happens because when we fill this gap, we are minimizing the risk for bias in how we perceive, comprehend, and project information. And then we're also neutralizing development and performance risk that's defined by three blind spots: the difference between what we believe we know and the actual depth of our knowledge, how we perceive our behavior and the reality of our conduct, and our inability to know how our behavior is impacting the efforts of others. Any one of those could be fatal to the professional or an organization. And then the third thing that we do, probably the most important, is we build a foundation of shared understanding for how to best direct and support improvement and performance. And this shared understanding aligns individuals and teams so they can be unified and integrated, and an organization can realize their collective potential. This is really the holy grail of professional and organizational development, and it is achieved by filling this development gap. Now, the training itself takes about 20 hours of time, can be completed over a weekend or in the evenings in about a week's time. It's comprised of 4.5 hours of instruction broken out into 16 on-demand learning modules, so you can go at your own pace. Collectively, they require about 12 to 16 hours of homework. And in the end, you're going to know how to strengthen that cognitive engine that optimizes decision-making and execution. You get to better information, analyze it faster, make more out of it. You're also going to know how to take care of that engine, add horsepower to it, fine-tune it to your specific development and performance needs. And it's important to note that this training underpins existing programming and policies by developing greater understanding and appreciation for them, and in turn increasing the probability that they'll be consistently applied as intended. So these behaviors drive unconscious, continuous, accelerating improvement, which means that it cannot be outgrown.
Well, everybody wants accelerated improvement and accelerated intelligence. So I'm curious, who would benefit from this, or who's an ideal client or a connection that would fit for you?
Well, we really run the spectrum. We help individuals differentiate as high performers, which is certainly a tremendous benefit to themselves and their organization. We help small teams and startups ensure that knowledge transfer and information flow, which is really critical to their success, does not get compromised. And we help large, both private and public organizations neutralize the elements in a bureaucracy that really repress development and its evolution. So they have that awareness to really move themselves forward and continue to be relevant, to provide value to their stakeholders.
So I'm curious if you could share a story of someone, a business that received tremendous value by working with you in accelerated intelligence.
Sure. We started this with the trading community back in 2009. And early on, one of my clients, very successful entrepreneur who was, I think, just wanted to be more self-directing in his investment activity. But he was an electrical engineer, electrical contractor. His company made controllers for baggage handling systems used in airports all over the world. And a couple months after completing that core IDT training, sent me a note to say how it had changed his thinking and created greater awareness for the needs of his best customer. And that led to a new process for that customer and 2 additional contracts. And that led to really expanding the scope of all their contracts going forward. And a couple of years back, we were asked to train senior intelligence officers within the Department of Homeland Security. And they use IDT now to help them see further out on the threat horizon. So you can see we've had success across a wide spectrum. And again, it is just something that all of us need to do, because if we don't, we're really going to put our independence, our identity at great risk of being taken over by this really ever-increasing power of machines. It's that simple.
Well, certainly every company and every organization wants to improve. So what's a good way for someone to reach out and connect with you or get a hold of you?
Well, ideally come through the website, theotherai.com, or the LinkedIn page, or Rocky. They can certainly contact you, to get a hold of us. And I really encourage you guys to do that. I'm very happy, grateful for the opportunity to speak with anyone, and make the time for that conversation, and you'll walk away with knowing how to turn this risk and threat of being overwhelmed into a significant competitive advantage.
Well, Ray, I certainly want to thank you for participating and doing a brief interview with me. And I also recognize the value that you bring not just to organizations and companies, but inevitably to all of us by improving the lifestyles, the performance, and the profitability of businesses. So I thank you for this, and hopefully we can connect soon.
Rocky, thank you very much for making the time, giving me this opportunity, and everyone.